So, reduction. Reduction in science is not ontology, it's a tool. There's a lot of confusion between the reduction over ontology and methodology. Reduction is a method. It has nothing to do with what is real. The universe may be picked apart or defined. We may get to know it by using a reductive methodology. And we come up with, oh, that is just atoms or just chemistry. Well, that is never ontology. If you have a salt shaker, inside the salt shaker, there are, tens of thousands of little crystals, and you have knowledge of it being salt or sodium chloride. You can reduce that to a sodium ion and a chlorine ion, and you can imagine that. But that has nothing to do with the reality of what's in front of you. The particular salt shaker that's in front of you is the only one in the universe. There's no other, and it has its own unique configuration. Every single cubic crystal has its own little chips and scratches and breaks and oddities and impurities, and they're all arranged one against the other in their own unique way. So one salt crystal will have 4 or 5 neighbors bumping into it, occupying space, and they're all related, and those are related to their 4 and 5 neighbors all the way to the surface, where there is glass, which also has impurities. There's air. There's an immense complexity to salt. So you can't say it's just sodium chloride. That misses the point entirely. The confusion over ontology and methodology with reduction is a pretty severe problem when it comes to creationist thinking. They're constantly saying, oh, it can't just be chemistry or just be this or just be that. Well, of course it can't. That's the whole point. We use that to understand things. When we figure out a biochemical pathway, it isn't some ontology. There aren't little atom balls bumping around in there in that particular path. I mean, it's quantum fields and it's complex beyond our imagination. That biochemical pathway is never pure. It's never perfect. It's not a machine. It's not one gear turning another in precise movements like a watch. There is a reality going on inside of it. And that reality is too immense for anyone's mind. I mean, even a small part of one cell would be way beyond our human minds to comprehend. So we reduce things. And one other trick of the creationists when it comes to reduction is they will go out and find a paper, and they'll cherry pick some little piece, usually out of the abstract, because they aren't smart enough to read the paper, understand what it really said, or they disagree with it because whatever, they think they're evolutionists, so they won't listen to the rest of the paper. And they pick that one little item and they depict it as some sort of a rebuttal or showstopper for evolution. And probably certainly would be if the universe were reductive and as simple as they imagine it to be, as plain and dirty and simple as the matter that their Christian God hates so much. But let's look a little bit at the reality of cells in the human body. There are about 70 to 100 trillion of them. And these cells go through, in a lifetime, about 100 cell divisions each, which amounts to about 10 quadrillion generations happening out there. Granted, each cell only goes through 100 generations, and it survives. If there's And genetic entropy, which there isn't, it's a bad way to look at. There are mutations in these duplications across these cells, but we have a population of 70 trillion cells or 100 trillion cells, and each one undergoes 100 generations. Now, some portion, as we age, as we get up, into our 80s, 90s, and 100s, that population, enough of it, becomes mutant or becomes non-functional. And that eventually causes our old age and our death. But if that were the whole story, the human race wouldn't have lasted more than 2,000 years. No individual could live more than 2 or 3 months if the mutations were as harmful and as accumulating as genetic entropy believes they are or has them to be. Nevertheless, there are these mutations in the germline. From the germline, the soma line in cells is degrading over a lifetime that ends the life of the organism. So, that's undeniable. But there's a more complete reality here. There's an ontology. There's that has little to do with these reductive ideas that would have us disappearing from the earth within a few generations or not being able to survive more than a few months. There's a reality inside each cell.